And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an energetic healer. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm a creative and a performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about working to become and then maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world. And most importantly, inspiring others to be the same. And it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but that doesn't mean that it's always and without a doubt your experience. My guest today is a wonderful pastor, a humanitarian, social justice person. She is the social justice minister at the church I am pastored at, Founders Metropolitan Community Church in Hollywood. And she just knows a lot about a lot. And I love to have her here. She's been a guest on many of my shows. This is her first time here. Please welcome the wonderful Pastor Lucia Chappelle. How are you, darling?
Hello, Sheena. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. This time of year, right? We're wrapping up the year. We got the holidays. Thanksgiving teaches us to give thanks, and Christmas is hopefully a time of connection and community. And then we move into the new year. And we sort of wrap it all up, right, for next year. As you end this year, what is it about being a pastor, a person of service, that still really turns you on? Like, what is it about that makes you keep coming back and doing the work and putting out the energy and spending the extra time? What do you still love about it?
It's always changing. It's always changing. You're always finding new ways and surfing in new waters, and the world around you is just like, from its highs to its lows, the world around you is just such an amazing thing to respond to. So it's the responsiveness and responsibility that keeps me interested.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. When did you know that you were a person of service?
When did I not know? When did I not know? I mean, I remember hearing adults when I was a kid, and we'd be watching stuff going on in the civil rights movement, and I couldn't understand why all the adults in the room weren't like rushing out to be in a picket line immediately and rushing out to, how can you not want to go? How can you not want to be there? How can you not want to be a part of what's happening? Every call to service just was to me from the time I became a junior forest ranger. You're too young to remember this. When Smokey the Bear used to be on the cartoons, and you could sign up to be a junior forest ranger and get your little card. How could you not? How could you not? How could you not stand up for Smokey the Bear?
Right.
How could you not stand up for Martin Luther King? How could you not take your place in that. I just can't imagine not wanting to. And I can't understand people. I really don't understand people that don't just want to like jump up and go.
I understand, but there are so many that don't. There are so many that and I always have to remind myself as a person, as a spiritual person, I know this, but as a human, I always have to remind myself that they don't have to. It's not required on this earth. You can be on this earth and you can just worry about you and your own life path and your own spiritual path, and you do not have to get involved in what others are doing.
I tend to try and interview those people. You know, like, just, what does make you tick?
Right.
You know,
but I think they are missing out, because to me, the service, that's the good part of life, right? I mean, that gives you purpose. That locks you into the whole. That shows you that we're a part of a human family. I mean, that service it's where you find out who you really are. And I guess some people just don't want that. And I've had people say that. I'm not interested in that. I just want to go to my thing and do my thing and come home and be with my person or people. And I don't really want to get involved in any of this. And those are oftentimes people that will tell you, I'm not politically inclined. I'm not spiritually inclined. I'm not sociologically inclined. I'm not really into culture. And I always think, wow, what is it like to be you?
Right. That's me. It's like, what is it like to be you? I also wonder, I have to wonder how much of that is social manipulation to keep people asleep. You know, there is a lot of that going around. It's not just what you decide to do. You know, I just decide I don't want to be involved in that, or I just decide I don't care about voting or whatever. That's not all just you. It has to do with, I was going to say how you were raised, but it's deeper than that. It's the stew you were cooked in. You know, that made you feel like, what is it that made you feel like those things are not important? And to whose advantage is it for you to think those things are not important?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and to some extent, somebody is pulling the strings to create a world where you feel like those things are not important. That's why, you know, now we're saying, even, bless her heart, Liz Cheney is saying, where people are sleepwalking into dictatorship.
Right.
Because it's just a blinkered thing. And it goes for spirituality as well as politics, I think.
I agree. Now, were you raised to be a person of service?
I just was. Nala. Nala, it's all right. It's all right.
And what about Nala? Was Nala raised to be a person of service?
Oh, Nala was raised to be a barky little thing. Nala, come here. Hey. Chill out. Chill. Oh, dear. Nala, you have to chill out.
This is the most active guest I've ever had.
Oh, I see. Somebody's in the driveway.
Oh, okay. Is it a cat?
It's neighbors. It's neighbors with their car.
What are neighbors doing? What's happening with the wife? We don't have a right.
It's just,
Nala is also
somebody's knocking on the door. Hold on.
Okay. Never happened during the Sheena Metal experience. I have never had someone come to someone's door while they were a guest on the podcast. This is fantastic. This is real life happening right in front of you. Is someone selling Girl Scout cookies? Are people selling religion? Is it, here's my political pamphlet? This is a new thing. It's how you know it's live. Doesn't that make it wonderful when you know it's live? And that's how you know. I just want to thank everybody who's joined us in the chat room right now. This is awesome. Hello, chat room people. I don't normally do that, but it's pretty cool.
I'm so sorry. That was crazy. I forgot a friend of mine was dropping some stuff over from Trader Joe's. Come on now.
Nice. No, it's beautiful.
I was getting a little delivery. So
nice.
come on. Yes.
Nice down. To get a little delivery.
I forgot all about it. I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't.
It's all good. That's how you know it's live. So were you raised to be a person of service, or did it just come from in you?
It came from in me. Just like church and whatnot. I had to throw a temper tantrum to get my parents to let me go to Sunday school.
Oh, okay.
Because they were just not into it, and my mother didn't want to deal with getting up on Sunday morning, and my father wasn't interested in being bothered with church. So they got a friend of theirs who lived up the street to pick me up on her way to church and to take me to Sunday school and the little cherub choir and all of those things. I was just drawn to all of those things.
Yeah.
And for my parents, it was just, all Lucia's annoying hobbies, sort of.
Look how beautiful your baby is right now. Look at what a beautiful baby.
Isn't she a good girl? Yes, she is.
So she's cute on camera. She's darling. She's loving it.
My weenie. Yes, she is.
So do you think it's nature versus nurture? I mean, do you think that innate need to be in service is something our soul brings into this earth? Or do you think it's just something that we pick up being on the earth and it's more an emotional response?
I think it's different for different people. I know people, who were like stone cold red diaper babies who grew up with that sense of service and going out there and working for the people and whatnot. And I know people who didn't come from that at all. I'm old enough to remember people whose, their grandparents with don't try and sit in front of the bus. Don't, go on lunch. Don't cause a lot of trouble. Everything was peaceful and quiet. They had kids that grew up and said, no, we're not going to be that way.
Thankfully.
So yeah, I think it's different for different people.
So for you, being that social justice is such an important part of your life and your ministry, is it also part of your own spiritual path? I mean, for you, is the quest to bring social justice to this earth a spiritual thing for you?
Absolutely. My favorite scripture comes out of the 4th chapter of Luke, where it's Jesus' first sermon, where he reads from the book of Isaiah, and he says, I have come to free the oppressed and give sight to the blind, and set the captives free. That's the nugget of it. That's the nugget of it right there.
Right. No, I agree, because when I look at Christ and the teachings of Christ, and sometimes you got to separate the teachings of Christ from what has been done by Christians, humans. To me, Christ was a social justice rabbi.
Absolutely.
And everything about him, from a spiritual and a community standpoint and a historical standpoint, was about growing community, growing connection, bringing people together, and ministering not just to the obvious people, but also to the people that nobody was ministering to.
Absolutely. There you go. There you go. The people of the margins.
Yes.
The marginalized people, the people that, and the people that, because of their condition, were assumed to be cursed by God.
Yes.
But
yes.
Especially, I was thinking about this earlier when I was thinking about talking to you this afternoon, and thinking about it being Advent and everything. It's like,
yes.
Who's God when God incarnates? When God incarnates, God becomes a monster for justice.
Yes. Yes.
And so at this time, when we're being open to the coming of God in the flesh, who are you when you incarnate?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It's interesting because when you mention Martin Luther King, growing up, my mom, who was absolutely a person of service, who weaned me on service, would always talk about the Christ energy, the Christ consciousness. And she believed the Christ consciousness was something that would go into different people at different times when there was a purpose for them to do great for the world. And I always thought that was such an interesting theory. And, a Martin Luther King, or a Harvey Milk, or an Abraham Lincoln on the brink of the Civil War, people where that energy was needed, it would come into someone who had a certain purpose. And oftentimes those people came in like gangbusters, did the thing they needed to do, and then were martyred, right? Then went home. They almost came for that purpose, and then they were gone. And I think we see that throughout history. To me, it makes a lot of sense that there is this energy, and we think of it as Jesus of Nazareth, but what if there were others that had the energy, the Christ energy, the consciousness that came in just to aid them in making the world a more beautiful and fair place?
And see, I want it all. Let's take a big bite and say, what about everybody having it at once? That's the Big Bang. That's the Big Bang theory. That's the every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. That's the second coming. That's right. We are the ones we've been waiting for in this Advent time,
Yeah.
It's when that lightning strikes everywhere at once.
Yes.
And everybody, it has to be, a situation, an environment where everybody is open to the coming of God in the flesh and ready to incarnate.
Yes. Yes.
And boom, there it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you tap into who you believe Jesus was, what are some of the things that you like the most and feel the most about him that you think are not as talked about in modern times as other things?
Well, I think it's getting talked about more now. His connections to Buddhism and other world religions and to the earth, to the natural rhythms of spirituality. You know, all that pagan stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
we can talk about all that pagan stuff. Right. The nature-based religions, the pre-Judeo-Christian nature-based polytheistic religions.
Right. And because it's all about, I had this great professor at Claremont, Old Testament professor, James Sanders, who would talk about how the early Hebrew spiritual community wasn't so much monotheistic as it was monotheologizing.
Okay.
And we're in a constant process, getting into process theology. We are in a constant process of monotheologizing, of bringing the polytheistic and the pantheistic and all of it together and recognizing the one great stream, and bit by bit, we're sewing it all back together again.
Yes.
And that's what Jesus was doing. He was just doing it in the language of Hebrew tradition.
Yes.
But if you look deeper into it, you can see all the threads coming together.
Yes.
And if you look at some of the text even more critically and look at, like when were the gospel, for example, when were the gospels actually written and what was going on at the time that was happening and who was being addressed and whatnot. You can see even more clearly how these threads, are there under the surface.
Right. Well, and how many gospels are missing from the Bible? And what are the ones we don't even know about? And what did they say? Where's the gospel according to Mary Magdalene? Where's that one?
Well, we've got some of it. We've got, oh my gosh, we've got all sorts of scraps.
Right.
That we can look at that help us understand. See, the Christianity that we have now is like, it's the winners. The winners didn't always play fair.
Yes.
They won, but they didn't always play fair. So it's helpful to know what people were actually thinking and feeling and experiencing, especially because that's the more you get into that historical context, the more you come to understand what in the Christ, what in Jesus Christ were people responding to.
Yes.
It wasn't Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, have mercy upon us, because that didn't come for hundreds of years later.
No.
So what caught them up right then at the moment? And it's what you're talking about. It's the way, it's the service, it's the light. It's the living the life of love.
Absolutely. Yes. And of connection, right? I always say, and I talk about this during my monthly interfaith service, Saturday Night Spiritual, but to me, everything that Jesus said can be broken down into 3 words: connection, community, and love. Connection to each other on the earth, and connection to spirit, to our higher power. Building of community, whether it's a spiritual relationship you're building with someone who is no longer embodied, or source spirit in general, or whether it's building community here on the earth, which I think is all of our service as beings of the earth, is to create community with other beings. And then, how much love are you throwing into it all? It's so much about that. And I think if you look at all the different things Christ said, you can move them into one of those three categories. Where does it go? And some of the things, multiple categories, multiple of those three. Some things he said belong to all three of those categories. But yet, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, think about how interesting the whole idea of Trinity is, because it's saying God exists in a relationship existence.
Right. Well, and community, connection, and love is another Trinity.
Exactly.
How the threes repeat themselves again and again, both in our earthly life and in our spiritual life.
Well, that's why 3 is the number of perfection in Hebrew numerology.
Right. Yes. What for you, what was the process of, sort of picking up different parts of your spiritual tool bag, and realizing they weren't all traditional Christian stuff? It was like little bits of different things that resonated with you. And was that okay? Did you ever feel like it wasn't okay to do that?
The first time I kind of put my toe in the water, I actually surprised myself that how not okay it felt. I was in a religion class in college, and we were challenged to, go to someplace different. So I went to this, oh, heavens to Betsy. What are they called? I can't remember what they're called all of a sudden. Hare Krishna. I went to a Krishna place. And it was really beautiful and really joyful. And, I was kind of tickled to be there. But afterward, when I was talking about in class, I realized how weird it felt to be someplace not Christian. I'm not even sure I had been to I certainly knew a lot of Jewish people, lived in a Jewish neighborhood in New Jersey, but I'm not sure I'd even ever been to synagogue or temple before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this was just like off the charts odd to me. And I remember thinking they offered the sacrament to everybody. And I'd never been in a Christian church that did that.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So that really kind of smacked me upside the head. Of course, in MCC, we have open communion. That's, that's our way. But, this little Presbyterian girl was kind of like, what? Everybody, what?
And I'm a little Presbyterian girl too. I always figured it was for the Catholics because my father was a lapsed Catholic. So when I went places with his family, there was the communion. But one year, some friends took me to an Easter Mass at St. Michael of the Archangels in Coldwater Canyon. And I did not know that Episcopal folks also did communion. And so that was my first experience with that. But I never took the communion because I figured I was a good Presbyterian girl. So I wasn't supposed to take communion. It wasn't for me. And it wasn't until my first time at MCC when I was sitting with our beloved and dearly departed Reverend Steve Peters, and everyone went up for communion. And I said, I can't take communion. I'm I'm Presbyterian. That's not right. It's not right to do that in somebody's church. And he said, are you kidding me? You're part of this church now. You do what you want. And I went up and I took my very first communion.
That's beautiful.
And I loved
beautiful.
it. I loved it.
Can I tell you a little kid story?
Please, you can tell me a long story.
When I was about 10 or 11, I went with my friend to her AME church.
Okay.
And when it was time for all the little kids to go up to communion, they just shuffled us all up in a line. And I was afraid to get out of line. And I knew I wasn't supposed to take communion because I wasn't confirmed yet. And I didn't know what to do. And they came through and they put it in my mouth and it stuck to the roof of my mouth. And I was certain that it was going to burn a hole right through my brain.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
I was terrified.
That is fantastic. Yeah. I didn't know what to think. I don't know that I've ever taken the wafer or the wine or whatever substitutes for the wine now. But I do the hug. I get the hug. And that's an MCC thing, right? I mean, I've been places where I've seen communion and there was no hug. But
yeah. I
like the blessing and the hug. As a matter of fact, I think that you were up. Our senior pastor, Keith Mazingo, was the one who did my communion that day, but I think you were right up there too.
Oh, probably helping to serve. Yeah. Well, of course, with the COVID thing now, we've kind of limited the hugging and changed things a little bit. But we'll hopefully we'll be able to go back to the way we used to do things someday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the things that made me so sad about COVID. I remember watching Dr. Fauci speaking in probably the spring of 2020. And one of the things he said was, I think that shaking hands is a thing of the past now. And I thought, man, that makes me sad because human beings, as just Lucia, the mammals that we are, we naturally isolate so much. We hold back spiritually and emotionally from others and physiologically. And so shaking hands and hugging, and I mean, these are all things that we need these things. And I've noticed that I'm a little out of practice with hugging. I had a friend come up and spend the night with me last night and help me put my Christmas stuff out. And he went to say goodbye and I hugged him. And I noticed I was patting him on the back when I hugged him. And I'm like, oh my God, I've become the back patting hugger. That's the worst. And I even apologized. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm patting you on the back. And because to me, a back patting hug is very dismissive. Like, oh, hi, I'm staying distant. But I just think I'm out of I'm out of shape. I'm out of practice with hugging because it's not a thing we're doing. And I think it's so important we find a way to fix that because we need to be touching each other or we're going to get really weird.
Weirder than we already are, which is
right. We already
bad already.
Yeah.
I just, there are things in this post-COVID world. I'm not sure. I just am not sure how we're going to, there's things I'm not sure how we're going to recover.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, a certain ease of being in the world.
Yes. Yeah. It's hard. You know, I was just talking to a friend about this earlier, but I have 4 parties to attend this weekend. And so I'm going to be up in Los Angeles. And I would be lying if I said in the back of my mind, I wasn't thinking, oh God, I hope I don't get COVID. And it's a shame that our moments of gathering, right? Our festivities, our gathering to party for the holidays, our our love. I mean, that's a thing you'd wait all year for the Christmas parties. And now you just think, oh my God, I hope I don't get COVID. I hope that day when we grow beyond that, because we as human beings need to experience joy. And there are so many things about life that are not joyful that we need to find our joy and grow it everywhere we can. And part of that is touching people, you know?
Let me say though, as somebody who swore she was not going to get COVID and ended up getting COVID last week, don't be afraid of caution.
Don't touch people this weekend, Sheena. Don't do it. Don't touch people.
That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying don't be afraid of caution.
Yes, I understand.
I'm going to start masking again, you know. And I started masking again when I knew I had it, because I didn't want to give it to anybody else. You know, I'm walking down the street or popping into the 7-Eleven or whatever. But we need to find, and see, this is the creative part. We really do need to find ways of feeling each other's touch while still being cautious.
Yes, because we need that human touch.
We have to do it. I was working on a short story that's getting longer all the time, but I was imagining how would these, and these are like post-epidemic people.
Okay, yeah.
And I imagined them hugging themselves when they greeted each other.
Yes.
And having moved to a place where they could feel that. I can do this in front of you and you can feel that hug. You know, I'm kind of feeling like that's a place we need to get to, is creating other gestures that help us feel each other.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, like this. Yeah, like I'm hugging you. But it's not the same, right?
It's not the same. But we have to stop complaining about it not being the same.
I know, and I'm
and get used to being.
I never complained before, but I have noticed now 4 years out of and I love doing my shows virtually. I love being in my home. I love being able to interview people all over the world and they don't have to come into town or do anything.
Right.
Man, when I was in a studio interviewing people doing 16 hours of radio a week, I got 20 hugs a day. And and then being up in LA and being around all my entertainment friends and parties and red carpets, and it was just hug after hug after hug after hug. And I notice now 4 years later that I am different from not having all the hugs.
We are all cranky children who have been locked up in our rooms for way too long.
Right. And thank goodness I adopted my miracle boy, who is a hugger. So every day I get many hugs from him and many kisses. He's not like a normal cat. He's a clinger. But I don't know what I would do without him. If I didn't have that little warm body to hug at night, I don't know what I would do, because, you know, I'm a very tactile person in a world where I can't be a very tactile person. And I think the patting hug, which I never was a pat hugger, comes from the fact that we're now trying to distance ourselves even as we hug our best friends.
Yes. We're still being careful about touching. And so it's like, you know, a pat, you're not touching for as long, you know.
Yes.
And it's not just it's not just a defend yourself thing. It's not wanting to harm somebody else too.
Yes,
You
100.
know, I'm very much aware of not wanting to, you know, like somebody might break if I hug them,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Or feel
Um,
uncomfortable, right? You never want to
or
make
feel
anybody else feel
uncomfortable, or God
uncomfortable.
help us, I make them sick because I don't know I'm sick.
Right. Yes. Yes. And we don't know who's compromised immune wise. We don't know who's taking care of other folks that are older folks, younger folks. I think I am. I think, and I don't want to scare you because you just had it. For me, my experience with getting COVID in the beginning of March of 2020, when I didn't know what it was, it changed me. I had long COVID for 18 months. And I think I still have long COVID in the sense that my immune system is not what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
weird. Like I always tell this story that, so when I got COVID, I was 53, about to turn 53. I had not had a UTI since I was 19. And the year I got COVID, I had 4. So it's just all these little things that creep up, right? The cold sores and the staph infections and all
Yep.
the stuff that kind of
Yep.
lives dormant in your body. Our immune systems are not post-COVID what they were pre-COVID. So all these weird little annoying things keep popping up.
They said at the beginning, you know, COVID has this strange way of attaching to bad bugs that are already in you.
Yes, yes, brings them all
And
out, you know. Hey,
it
herpes,
brings them
how
out,
about
it
that?
changes them, you
Yep.
know, it does all that stuff. You know, I just finished, well, hopefully we're going to do another performance. Our Queer Wise does a World AIDS Day show. That's
Beautiful.
the writers group I'm in. And one of the pieces reminded me of that time during the height of AIDS when, you know, the saying was, you're not sleeping with this person, you're sleeping with this person and everybody else they've ever slept with.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. You know, you're not hugging this person, you're hugging this person and everybody else they've had contact with.
Yes.
And everybody else they might have contact with in the future. And again, this is not to be scary. It's not, somebody told me one time, you're just full of fear. Everything you say is full of fear. And no, I'm not at all afraid because I'm doing absolutely everything in my power to keep myself and my community safe.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
That's not fear. That's, you know, that's Mama Bear being on the defense.
Yes, I love that. Yes. And that's okay. It's okay. Right now, we need to just keep each other safe.
That's right. That's right. Um, it is a kindness. It's a kindness to yell at people who aren't being safe. It's a, you know, to make sure we keep tapping each other on the shoulder and saying, you know, are you taking right care of yourself?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And are you taking right care of our community?
Yes. And it will be very interesting to see how many people are wearing masks this weekend.
Yes. What it's going to be interesting to see what kind of holiday season we have all together, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems that we've made it through Hanukkah more or less unscathed so
Yeah.
far.
Yes. So far,
But
so far, so
we
good.
won't know for another few days. But then, you know, and then, you know, how are we going to be after Christmas and the first week of the new year? How is everybody going to be?
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to check yourself out. That's the other thing I would tell people.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Take
Yeah,
care of you.
and pray for yourself and pray for everybody. You
Always.
know, continue to, it gets tiring, you know, kind of trying to maintain a shield of love and an aura of protection around yourself and everybody you know, yes, it wears on you.
Yes.
It's tiring, but that's why we need to all be in it together to share that load and that responsibility.
I agree 100%.
I don't have to keep the aura going all the time. Sheena can handle it some of the time.
Exactly. We share the load. I love that. Sweetie, you are so beautiful, and I always love having you here. Where can people find you online? And let's please do this again. I would love it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I'm what am I? I'm justice at mccla.org.
Beautiful.
Is my email address. And you can usually find me hanging around the Founders Metropolitan Community Church Facebook page. We also have an FMCC Social Justice Facebook page.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm knocking around there too. I'm La Chap on Twitter and La Chap 333 on the Instagram.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I haven't made it to the TikTok yet, but you know, you just watch me.
It's coming. Social justice is coming to TikTok.
Hey.
Thank you for being here, my friend. I love and adore you, and I appreciate you.
I love you too, Sheena. It's been wonderful being here and chatting with you. And we're going to get into some great trouble in the coming new year.
We got some good stuff coming up next year, you and me, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to be kicking ass and taking names.
If you missed any of those links, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Also, I'm on social media everywhere at Sheena Metal. And if you want to just touch base with me, 818, that's my number, 437-0886. Send me a text message and I will get back to you. Thank you so much to Pastor Lucia Chappelle, KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network, my program director, Bill Forte, and my wonderful engineer and producer, Emery, who is the wind beneath my wings. Till I see you next time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration, the vibration of those around you, and the vibration of the everything. And most importantly, remember that you are love and you are loved and you're so loved by me. I'm Sheena Metal. This is the Sheena Metal Experience. I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time, right here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Please take care of you. Happy holidays.